We're back to work on the old RM465 now. As you can see, I've kind of tore the bike apart. I got the pipe off of it, getting ready to do a pressure check. Next thing I'm going to be doing is taking the old carburetor off. You know, right there. But I ended up finding something right after I pulled the pipe off that I had a feeling I'd find, but I just, figured I'd stop and tell you all about it. So we're over here at the exhaust pipe, which by the way is a DG unit. And I noticed something when I pulled it off. So right about here, you can kind of see this line. That's a crack. Now this pipe has cracked a couple times before and I've had to fix it up. Luckily, I know how to gas weld, so it's no big deal. I just figured I'd stop and tell you all about it. So you'll get added content there. So I've got my gauge here, which by the way is just an old sphygmomanometer as they call it, off of a blood pressure cuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pressure this up a little bit, add some pressure in it. So you really want to be able to put around 7 psi into this. I can't do that with this particular gauge. I can only get about 6, almost 6. So what happens here is I get it up to the 300 mark, and I'm watching for drop. Now as you can see, this is actually dropping pretty quickly. So every 52 units on this is actually 1 psi. Thing is, I've actually checked to see exactly where it is that I am losing air. Check this out. This thing lever. Give me some pressure. I'm losing air right there. So this whole time I've had this bike, there's been a leak. That's something I'll be checking into as soon as I can. So I've stripped the bike down a little further. I took the air boot off, the reed cage out, made sure everything was straight. The reed cage had a little bit of, little bit of warpage to it, but nothing too awful bad. So what I've done is I've reassembled with a little bit of Moto Seal, gas resistant silicone, if you will. So I'm gonna go ahead and repressure test this. I haven't tried this yet, so you're getting to see this for the first time with me. Alright, that looks a lot better, but it's still dropping, which I wish it wasn't. So I'll go ahead, just go through, kind of see if I can find where it's leaking from. This thing loses its prime, so I gotta put a little pressure to it. I'm still leaking just a little bit from right there. I think that's the only place I'm leaking from. Alright, I can probably take care of that without tearing back into it. That small leak makes sense. Alright, to be continued. So I pumped it up to 300, and I'm just watching the drop again. As you can see, it's dropping, but it's dropping relatively slow. So this is telling me that I still have a small leak somewhere, but this is within an acceptable range. One thing I do like to do is just kind of go through, rotate the engine around just to see if at any point it drops significantly. Yep. So that right there is looking to be a good sign. Do have to remember that there's quite a bit of volume inside the crankcase of this engine, so fact that it's not moving around much at all is actually pretty impressive. But every now and then it does drop about 5 to 10 numbers I see. So this thing will probably need crank seals at some point, but I already checked around and my leak up here at the intake boot is gone. So this is actually within a acceptable range for me, so I'll call that good. Alright, so here we got this pipe. Just got done welding it up. I shot this one off camera. There was a pretty good sized crack there. And I'm going to go through. I got a little bit more repair to do, but you know, I don't like to get one spot too hot. What you just saw me record myself welding though was this right here. Welded it without any filler, just fusion welded. I noticed that while I was cleaning up the pipe to fix the other crack. Got the bike all pieced back together. Fixed all the cracks in the pipe. Repainted the section that I patched up. I didn't bother to clean the rest of the pipe, so no use in trying to paint the entire thing. She's all ready to go. The only thing I have left to do is to put oil in it. Get a couple hoses for the overflows on the carburetor that just need to be replaced. There's new air filters in it, fresh ones, freshly oiled. So once I get some transmission oil in this thing, get a couple hoses, should be ready to fire up. So I got this thing put back together. Went and put 1,000 milliliters of transmission fluid into this thing, because that's how much this thing takes, well over a quart. Got my little fuel line on there. What you're going to see is me turning the fuel on for the first time and seeing if I can fire this thing up. Like I said, prior video, it's been at least 3 months, I think, since this thing has ran. Last time it did, it ran perfectly, so I'm sure it'll bust right off. Just turn the fuel on. Carburetor was completely empty, by the way. Now to do the typical big bore thing. Say that primes the engine. How much it actually does, I don't know. Hopefully my kill switch works and this thing doesn't just take right off on me. I'm always nervous with this thing. Now I am just wearing my steel-toed work boots, by the way.